Hey y'all, welcome to Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. I'm Mandy. I'm just a mom sitting down having real conversations with real Texans about what's going on in our state. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by the leaders of Carroll ISD School Board, Cam, Bryan, and Andrew Yeager. They have taken on the education cartel and steered their district to high quality education, discipline, and thriving students. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have y'all on camera because you all did what was the unthinkable. You took back a school board and then you completely changed the trajectory of your district by getting out of the cartel kingpin of TASB. So let's go back and start at the beginning. Let's go back to 2021. We've come out of COVID. The teachers unions, the ed cartel shut down schools. We're trying to make it difficult to go. They were trying to mask our kids. You all rallied the community to take back your schools, which is what we want to see everyone do. So, Cam,
100%.
talk to us about what happened.
It seems like ages ago, but it was only 6 years ago. It actually started in the summer of 2020 when Andrew and I and most in our community got an email with a PDF document. And that PDF document was the Cultural Competence Action Plan, CCAP. It was I always referred to it as a DEI plan on steroids. It had everything under the sun, from affirmative action hiring to punishment for microaggressions to giving teachers a cultural competence rating in order for them to continue to work. They changed the curriculum. They were putting in courses strictly on DEI and the white supremacy and all those ideals back then. And it was a requirement for graduation
That's
for
insane.
our students.
Who put it in there real quick? Where did it come
So
from?
the district put it together, the administration at that time, and the school board was scheduled to vote on it in August of 2020, so that's summer. And so what we did was we formed a PAC, because our district had gotten far beyond academics. It was all this values, behaviors, and beliefs, not reading, writing, and arithmetic.
The woke mind virus that they were cramming.
Our parents were very engaged at Carroll ISD, and so they, took issue with this document, and they stood up. We formed a PAC. It was called the South Lake Families PAC, really for the sole purpose of vetting school board candidates to really stop the CCAP, stop all this stuff that was going on in our classrooms and on our campuses. And so we conducted interviews, and me and another candidate were selected to run for May 2021 race. So it made news all over the place. Our campaign was crazy. It was really crazy.
It made news across the country.
Across the country.
Because
really
you all,
across the world. I mean, it was.
I'm sure. Because you were standing up against this Marxist intersectionality wheel of grievance. Let's indoctrinate kids, white kids, to hate themselves and any other children to see themselves as victims.
Exactly right. Well, I mean, the national news really labeled Southlake as the epicenter for fighting this stuff. For fighting DEI, for fighting SEL, for fighting all of these kind of political ideologies that were infiltrating our schools, not only in Texas, not only in Southlake, but across the nation.
That's right.
So we were kind of building this wave that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when people saw that we could actually take back our community, take back our schools, and not get totally canceled, then that's what sparked the interest. How are you guys, doing this? So, our whole campaign was, we were all just flaming racist, all
Christian nationalists,
everything
fascists,
under the sun, death threats, everything from there. And after the election in May of 2021, we actually won by 40 points. So we won 70-30. And we had 50% of the electorate in Southlake turnout. To vote, which is unheard of.
That is unheard of.
So it was about 10,000, a little over 10,000 voters. And before that, people were winning with like 600 votes.
Right. I think that's really important to reiterate is we as patriots allowed our schools to be completely infiltrated by Marxists who wanted to insert what did you call it? The Cultural Competence Action Plan.
Yeah.
It's critical race theory.
Yeah.
They were it's critical race theory into our schools, and this has happened everywhere. But the reality is that they are just the very loud, aggressive minority that is doing this. All of us, we're parents. We just want to raise our kids to be well educated, to be patriotic, to know that America is great and exceptional, and launch to be successful. They want to indoctrinate our kids. And so that is where having a massive majority, not a small percentage, a massive majority of people say, I'm with them. I'm with you guys. This is what I believe. That really did send shockwaves across the state and the country for patriotic parents and grandparents and community members to say, okay, we can take this back.
Right. And what a lot of people don't know is that when Hannah and I were elected in May, we were a 2-5 board. So how do you get things done when you're still not the majority?
Right.
And the fact that we had so many people show up at the polls, that was a mandate win for us. And the superintendent knew that. And the rest of the board members knew that. So instead of legislating or governing through the board, we're able to kind of govern through the superintendent because he knew that this is what the community wanted. And we were able to get substantial change accomplished without having a majority board.
That's key.
That's unprecedented.
It is. It's unprecedented, but that is really, really important for patriots to understand, for parents to understand that in these school boards, even if you're not the majority at this point, because that goes back to long-standing influence in school board elections, who's there, how it works, where the money flows, even this team of 8, which I call the Gang of 8 language, that the executive search firms from TASB or Mukasey executive search firm or Welsh and Gallegos executive search firm, they put superintendents in there to control them. But if you have the mandate from the public, then you can use that pressure on them, because ultimately the superintendents serve at the pleasure of the district, but at the board.
Of course, of course. And shortly after Hannah and I were elected, we had a board member that moved out, and so they had to resign. And typically what's been most school boards, and TASB promotes this, and that is go appoint somebody because it's always hard to beat an incumbent, right? So during my campaign, I said, we will never appoint while I'm on the board. The community gets to decide who's on the board. So we will have a special election and always have a special election. So we called a special election in November of 21. And Andrew had a very contentious fight. He had a worthy opponent, and he won 70-30, maybe even more, 70-30. And our races were different. I was running on, I'm against DEI, I'm against cultural competence plan, I'm against everything that was going on there at the time. Andrew had a different subject. Just 6 months later, after we won and put that to bed, what was your
let's hear about it, Andrew.
So if you recall at that time, it was Representative Matt Krause was dealing with age-inappropriate learning material.
Yes.
Love him. And that was a hot issue in the legislature. And so I would go door to door, and people would say, please tell me this learning material isn't in our libraries.
You're talking about hyper-sexual, explicitly clear, teaching kids sexual acts.
Yeah, we're not talking about classics that somebody might say. To Kill a Mockingbird has some scenes that are tough to deal with. That subject, that's another conversation. These were books that were very obviously not age appropriate.
Rape, incest, all of these. My shadow, or my blue boy, or whatever it was. My shadow is purple.
Unfortunately, the list is long.
I know it is. I remember all of this.
We can have a whole show on that.
We can actually. The very first show I did was on this with Hillary Hicklin, and I just read through the insanity, because at this time, they were trying to indoctrinate and really desensitize children to steal their innocence by inserting very, very adult pornographic material in front of them at a young age.
All the way down to pre-K.
Yes, that's right.
It's great. And it's not just books.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what we like to just say learning material.
Yes, any of the instruction materials in the classrooms.
Right.
They were doing those circle times, which is SEL, but it was including, all of this. I trace it all. It's Marxism. It's trying to create, it's trying to disconnect children from their parents, the natural order, and insert very, very inappropriate, completely far out there leftist ideology to break the bond for parents and to effectively teach children that the state is who you should be listening to.
And you know where it's most dangerous? Not just in books, but ed tech.
That's right.
Because you can't control it.
Yeah.
And
Amen. I'm glad you said it.
It's our kids as young as pre-K are looking at a screen with this education technology that the state approves.
That's right.
And it's embedded throughout.
Yes, it is.
And the algorithms are as such that you don't know what's coming up next. It may start out fine,
right?
But then it gets into
it, and they promote this idea. They call it adaptive learning, but what it means is you can't actually trace and know what is going to be shown to the kids next. So yes, I've had teachers bring me screenshots of the questions that is just critical race theory inserted into a math question, and it's absurd. So I'm glad you pointed that out, because ed tech, they are godless technocrats looking to just siphon billions out of our education system.
Follow the money, right?
Always follow the money.
Yeah. Andrew and I on our board, and now that we have just a really awesome superintendent, just like a lot of people are doing across the country, and that is realizing that technology is not.
It's terrible.
Yeah. It's not really great for education. So we are really reducing the reliance of technology, especially in the elementary levels. Of course, there is some up in the high school levels, but middle school on down, we're like, nope.
Good for you.
And you know what? A teacher told us that the pinching skills, the kids they can't even hold a pencil now.
Right.
Because they don't have that muscle.
They have not. And you're supposed to be training that in pre-K.
So we've gone back to workbooks and pencils and paper and
cursive.
Oh, yeah.
And cursive.
Absolutely.
So,
amazing.
I told somebody who was running for Congress, it was actually John Bunk. I saw him at the convention, and I said, John, please use this line. And that is, we have to make this change that we saw, and as Cam was saying, back with early ed tech. One, this is a lot of money that the previous board had been using bond dollars to pay for
30-year funds for a 5-year device.
Correct. If you're lucky.
My gosh. Yeah, if you're lucky.
And then the parents are going, I didn't send my kids to school to sit on a tablet.
That's right.
And then the teacher's saying, Mr. Yeager, Mr. Bryan, our kids actually for the first 3 years of their lives are doing this or this. Yeah. And to Cam's point, they said they don't even have the pincer skills to hold pencils.
Right.
So they literally were focused.
Away. It's just crazy.
They said if we can build those muscles in pre-K and in K, they then can be writers. And what I told this
and thinkers.
Yeah, and I told John, I said,
critical
look,
thinkers.
Yes.
we don't want this generation to be the first generation of Americans who cannot read the founding documents of our country, which are written in cursive.
That's why I asked about cursive. That's exactly correct, which has been intentional, right? To remove all of this so you can't read we've all seen the beauty, not just in the content, but the actual visual beauty of the Declaration of Independence. It's gorgeous.
And
but if you can't read cursive and you don't know what it is, you can't read it.
And you get right brain and left brain together in cursive, as I was told by psychologists.
It's true. Yes,
it brings it together,
It's exactly right.
And the most beautiful thing we remember is when we took our cursive back to our parents and look what I've done.
Yes.
Right. And we want to celebrate what's beautiful.
You should be able to sign your
learning.
Name, right?
Right. Yes.
Well, you have to sign your name.
Yes.
At the very least.
That's right.
It's great. But I think we're a prime example. Yeah. And Andrew and I talk about this all the time, and that is we take seriously the independent in ISD. We don't feel like the federal government or the state government should be involved in educating our children. It should be our community, our parents, determining how our children are educated. And we have totally flipped not only our board, but our superintendent, our administrators, our principals, and also our teachers, which now we're like, cooking with the gas. People have our values, and everybody that works in our district has the community values, that they teach with.
which creates
so it makes a huge difference.
Better educational environment and achievement. Y'all are number one in the state for a reason.
We're number one.
And it's also a magnet. We like to say that our district is a destination district. Families who, a lot of them relocate for jobs or personal reasons, they'll come and they'll find Southlake. And because we met them block walking, we meet them in the supermarket. But also we become a destination district for teachers and administrators because they know, oh, you know what? I love what Carroll is doing.
Right.
So I think, Cam, was it that we found for every open position for teaching, we had over 60 applicants?
60 applicants.
That's amazing.
No
teacher shortage there.
Well, the detractors say, our teachers are leaving in droves.
They're coming to you.
Well, there's two types of losses, right? There's regrettable and unregrettable.
Right.
And so we have a few regrettable. We have a whole bunch of unregrettable.
Right.
Yeah. But
good for you.
Behind every single position, and this was last summer, Dr. Glenn was telling us we had over 60 applicants per open position.
That's amazing.
People are wanting to work in our district.
And you touched on it. It's the academic expectations. It's the behavioral expectations. It's the culture and the values that come with the students and the parents and the faculty and the staff that they're around. You hit something, Cam, that I want to go back to because you said we believe in local control. I believe in local control. Something that we're watching across the state that is incredibly deceptive that you all were able to extract your district and your students and your teachers from. And that's the control of what I refer to as the education cartel. Right. And those are the entities that have built effectively an iron triangle of power that are controlling the districts from not even the state level. Right. It's not even they're government entities, but it's these associations and it's these profiteers that have created the TASB. I'll go with TASB, but there's a whole lot of the TAS, the school administrators, and it just goes on. And they receive, they're almost fully funded, probably close to 100% with taxpayer dollars, and they are giving, they're choosing. They're running the executive searches. We talk about that. That's how it's unfortunately they're giving and they're coming effectively with a consent agenda and saying this person would be the best superintendent. And they're going and getting people with their same values. I talk about Angela, I forget her last name, she was brought over from California, sent to Midland ISD in 2020-ish. A disaster, not a culture fit, trying to bring in this critical race theory garbage and all that. They ousted her after 2 years, said, that dog's not going to hunt here. She ended up in Fort Worth, where it's a whole other disaster. We're now paying her close to $1 million when the board tried to oust her. But my point is that's because the executive search firms of the education cartel put her in there, brought her from California, which we don't take too kind to that here in Texas. But And she's been an utter disaster. And we're still having to pay this woman. But this happens all across the state. You all didn't do that. But then they're influencing the districts. You've got the guidance.
Of course they are.
We've got board book, which is used by at 1,200 of our districts. I want you to talk about how you got your district out of the control of the education cartel and why you all now, the parents in the district, work with the leadership to put you on a track, again, to greatness. You all are great. You are the standard for our state. How did you break free of the nefarious cartel that is run by TASB and others to take back control of your district?
Yeah, we certainly, both of us campaigned on that's what we were going to do when we were elected into office. But at some point over TASB's 75-year existence, they went from supporting school districts, supporting school boards, to influencing districts and influencing school boards. And the fact that they have almost all 1,200 school districts in the state of Texas under their umbrella, they are literally controlling who the superintendent. They are controlling policy, which means they're putting their bias on legislation and putting it in policy.
That's right.
And they are controlling any type of litigation. They are controlling risk management, all of the insurance these school districts are going through TASB. And I know we'll walk through some of this stuff, but we don't believe in monopolies in this country.
Right.
We don't believe in monopolies in Southlake or Carroll ISD. We believe in the free market, and we believe in capitalism. And that's how we sold it. We said, we feel like we can get better rates, we can get better service, we can take control of our own district and our own community by setting TASB aside. And so 3 years ago, we passed a resolution that dissolved our contract with TASB.
How'd that go over?
It was great.
No,
it was great.
Wait a second.
Our community wanted it.
Your community wanted it.
So
it
what
went
does
over.
TASB stand for? The Texas Association of School Boards. So you would think that TASB then supports school boards, right? When we read our resolution and passed it, guess who Executive Troxel called first? Did he call the president of Carroll ISD School Board? Who did he call? He called the superintendent.
That's right.
Because TASB has direct relationships with superintendents.
Right.
They don't have any relationships with board members or especially the presidents of the school board. So that tells you all that you need to know.
You better get your rogue board under control.
That's exactly.
And when he couldn't do that, then what happened?
Well, I mean, they threatened to sue us.
I saw. TASB, this is why I call them a cartel.
Yeah.
It was lawfare. They sent out, it became very public when you all said, we don't need your control in our district. They threatened to sue you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was crazy. Not, all the services that they provide, you can find out there on the market, such as insurance. I'll give that example is that 3 years ago, we were up to bid out our insurance. The school district has about a half a dozen to a dozen different types of insurance that they use, and they usually go straight through TASB. Mm-hmm. We put it out on the market for bid. TASB bid on it. TASB wasn't the low bid. And then again this year, TASB bid on it. TASB was not the low bid. So they're not the only game out there.
So for the 1,200 plus, there's more than 1,200 districts, but they have about 1,200. They tried to keep you from leaving and getting out of. Again, this is why I call it a cartel, because most people think of like drug cartels. And if you try and leave.
Right.
There is no. It is a lifetime, and that was the behavior. You tried to leave, and they tried to use lawfare because they have lawyers out the wazoo. Okay, that is why this is a comparison. It's control, but also the pricing control. It is the mentality that they're the cheapest guys in town. Where do you put it on the marketplace? Tell for those maybe that are used to going to the fancy TASB conferences at JW Marriott that we as taxpayers pay for and all that good stuff. And you can't get any of this better anywhere else. Where should trustees go? The marketplace. You said we put it on the marketplace to bid. Where do they go?
Yeah. You just go to the open market.
And
bid it out.
Just say, here's what we need.
Just put an RFQ or put an RFP out there. That's what we do for all of our services now. And we choose the best qualified.
It's also
usually the lowest bid.
Yeah, it's also very transparent. And Cam had this great idea. And I remember, Cam, early on, we said to our CFO, what are all of the services that they give us? Because they have a very long list. Yeah. We were only working or getting about services, about 8 of them.
Yeah, they have about 25 services that they offer, and we were using about 8 of them.
Yeah.
And then we put that out in a meeting. So all of our community could see these are the services that we use. And then when we did the bidding, we also made that all completely public. So whether it was property and casualty, which is very difficult for school districts to get, right? Workers' comp, et cetera. We put it all out there for everybody to see.
Right.
And then when we had the selection, all of that was completely transparent. These are the bids and these are the prices. So the community,
and these are the companies.
They really didn't come back to us and say, now, why did you do that?
Right.
It was really clear, to Cam's point, why we wanted to go to the open exchange, just like you do it at your house, right? How you manage your own personal finances. You might say to your wife, hey, we need to get some new auto insurance. We just have a new teen driver.
Right.
And you go get 3 bids.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And we made it very transparent.
This needs to happen. I'm going to say this right now, and I'm going to go ahead and put y'all on the spot because we need to pass a law requiring every school board to do exactly what you all just did. So I'm going to say, we're going to find us a legislative champion, and we're going to pass the law for that transparency.
Well, we're saving our taxpayers' dollars.
It's not our money. It's not the school district money.
I mean,
Correct.
we have a responsibility to be good fiduciaries of the taxpayer money. We need to spend it efficiently. We need to spend it smartly. And that's what we do at Carroll ISD. And I'll go back on TASB just real quick. And Andrew will probably back me up on this. And that is, most school boards that we talk to, they have no clue of what services. And you know what? Most districts, they don't either.
Right.
Yeah. They just pay the fee, and then, oh, by the way, it's not just an $11,000 membership fee, and then you get all of these services. The services come at a cost as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of like,
and they'll also nickel and dime you. I know that when they send out updates and stuff like that, you get a bill for it.
Sure.
If it's just communication updates, or if
legal services, which is an 800 number, which doesn't really give you legal services.
That's paralegal or something like that.
Right. We know. I mean, Cam and I have gone to TASB training before we left them.
Sure. Yeah.
So we sat through those workshops.
Were y'all in the workshops where they brought in the transgender stuff?
Did y'all? That was after I was elected.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. But you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
They literally were brought in transgender and were trying to explain why boys need to go into girls' private spaces to watch them undress or play on their sports to beat the living daylights out of them.
I mean, a lot of these school boards, they're concerned with, the cost of insurance, risk management, that type. But a lot of them are really concerned because they've been brainwashed for years that the only TASB can create policy, right? And so we had the hardest time at Carroll when Andrew and I were elected, going back and forth on policy, because what TASB does is they take legislation from whatever session. They put their own bias on it, put it in a policy, send it out to school districts, and they just adopt them without even reading them. Yeah. We started reading ours, and we're like, we want this change, this change, this change. They sent us we went back and forth on the instructional materials policy. They flat out would not agree to do that. So we had to just say.
They wouldn't agree to do what?
Yeah.
Let you remove DEI and
I mean, it was back and forth. We had the hardest time with creating policy once we got on the board, because we disagreed with a lot of things that they sent over, and we're just like, this is our policy. It's not your policy.
And I've heard that they will threaten you. You can, maybe threat is not the right, coerce you or whatever. Basically tell you, if you don't follow this, then your legal protection that you're also paying through the risk fund is null and void, because we're giving you the legal advice. And if you don't do this, well, then that's on you.
The threat is that they have trademark on policy and that schools are using it. And so you have to go find an alternative, which we did. And I'll say, too,
which is who? Go ahead.
Yeah,
plug them.
Sure. TEE, Texans for Excellence in Education.
Yes.
So, the key was, if you have an alternative, and we would tell school boards, give yourself time. Mm-hmm. So start the calendar year or the fiscal year. We were on a calendar year contract with TASB. So when we did that proclamation and decided to leave, it was early in the year.
Yeah.
So, Mandy, we gave ourselves the whole year to go out and
get bids.
Find
bids for insurance. All of it. Yeah. Board book, guess what? There's a really good alternative. It's better, called Diligent.
Better, actually.
Right?
Called what?
Diligent.
Okay.
And
Diligent. I'm going to say it again.
Yeah.
School districts. Diligent. Go check it out.
Diligence, the platform for our meetings, for the community to see what's on the agenda, et cetera.
Yes. Okay.
There were no complaints from the community, which is really key. So all of those are alternatives that are out there, but it's not something that you would do overnight. Right. We gave ourselves a whole year to do it.
We did.
And I would say this too, Mandy, and you touched on it. For me, particular, and I know Cam felt this way, the straw here that broke the camel's back with our relationship was TASB. Biden was in office, and it was the winter of 23, I believe, and TASB came out, and they were looking at some of the Biden administration's radical interpretation of Title IX.
Right.
And every single school board trustee that winter got an email from TASB, and it was this jumbo word salad legalese that basically said two things. One, let students go to the bathroom and locker room of their gender choice. And two, if they want to transition, do not tell parents. That's what TASB.
That is demonic. I cannot make
writing.
this. That is literally
like an 8 or 9
demonic.
In writing.
Dissertation, legal opinion on that, and that was that was the final straw.
We're going to fight like hell to not deal with the federal government and this absolutely radical policy that contradicts science, parental rights, God's law, and a whole host of things. Not that.
Right.
Take it and just cram it down your throats and say, well, that's what it is.
And that was it.
Right. It's disgusting.
That was it.
That was
it. And that's when I think it was about that time when ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom, the law firm out of Washington, D.C. that's totally pro bono, fights for these types of things. They called me and said, hey, we would like to represent you. against the Biden administration's Department of Education in their unlawful Title IX changes, which are going to go into effect, by the way, in about 6 months. Yeah. And I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but the Biden administration just tried to change the definition of sex from male, female, XXXY chromosome to gender identity. Yeah. So that sets up, well, if you're a boy and you say I'm a girl, that means I can access girls' locker rooms, I can access girls' restrooms, I can play on girls' athletic teams. So folks out there saying that our win in federal district court against the Biden administration and then the withdrawal of the appeal in the 5th District down in New Orleans that codified and made that win permanent. And then it coincided with, the latest Supreme Court ruling on boys playing on girls' athletic teams. While they didn't consider our case as part of that ruling, if Title IX had changed, the Supreme Court would have had to consider the changes that were in Title IX. And who knows if that ruling would have been the same.
That's right. God bless you all for doing that. And that is it. For standing firm, not just for the parents of Texas, but you affected what has happened in the entire country. And I would say by default, the entire world watches America and what we're doing. The free world does. And saying there is truth and standing for truth, which is there is a difference between biological males and females, XX and XY chromosomes. And to try and deny that is absolutely evil. And I will stand by. This is one of the reasons that I started paying attention to TASB and that they're evil. Just again, a cartel with tentacles out. But you said something that's really important, that they absolutely are. A monopoly. Right. You use that term, and that's exactly what they are. And we can go back and look at the antitrust laws on the books where, Bell South became a monopoly. Right. This is what we're looking at here for TASB and why it ultimately has got to be dismantled from the risk pool that obviously is not the best insurance, their investment pool where they're the ones that are making goodness knows how many percentage points when we have a state one that's very, very transparent. I mean, it's all of it. Now they're buying gasoline, they're doing energy, they do HR, but what is it when you talk? Because I know that trustees from across the state come to you and go, hey, what are y'all doing? I mean, you're the best. Why would you not? If you had a brain, you would come to the best and say, how do we emulate you in our districts?
What do you hear from them? I think Cam said it really well about the independence and listening to your community. Our community is involved in virtually every major decision we make because we're the elected officials. We represent them. So when we had to do some budget reductions, we didn't make that decision ourselves in a vacuum. We reached out and we formed a committee with teachers, with principals, with people from the community and said, what are your shared priorities? You're never going to be perfect and get everybody online. But, when you win elections 70+%, that's going to be,
you have a mandate. But
you have a mandate.
There's a lot of, here's an important point. You have a lot of very well-intentioned school board members out there that feel the same way that we do. The problem is that superintendents and directors and executive directors in these school districts have been brainwashed as well. So as much as, you have 3, 4, maybe even 5 school board members on a board that want to move in this direction, they're getting, I guarantee you, they're getting tons of pushback from their superintendent in their district. So it's very difficult. That is why it's very important for school boards. It's the most important decision and responsibility the school board has, and that is you have one employee, and that is a superintendent. You hire a superintendent that has your community's values and is going to know their role. Their role is to administer and run a school district. The school board's role is to give them the resources and tools necessary to do so. Right. So when our superintendent, when we were elected, he left shortly after we were elected.
He went to another district?
No, he retired.
Okay.
And so we didn't use a search firm.
Good for you.
We said we're all professionals. We've been in business for a long, long time. We know how to hire somebody.
Yeah.
And so we sent out, a bit out there. And, what we found is that superintendents are very hesitant to say, I'm looking for a job because they don't want to make their board angry and it might jeopardize. So we had a very difficult time finding somebody that really met our criteria. So I just started cold calling people. from around the state that people had recommended to me. So I called Dr. Glenn, and he called me back. And Andrew and I met and had coffee with him that next week.
Yeah.
We brought him in for an interview, and it was a just absolute slam dunk.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so he, along with the board, has been able to work together to make these changes occur. And so what happens when you hire the right superintendent, that superintendent hires the right executive directors, and they hire the right principals,
right.
And then they hire the right teachers. And so then with us, we've been able to
cultural
have
transformation.
Cultural transformation in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And I love to hear that story because there are excellent leaders out there that have not.
There is.
That have not been totally brainwashed, or I know of a few different superintendents that are actually very involved with TASB, but they understand and they know, and they'll say quietly, off camera, behind closed doors, to people that they're evil, they're wrong, they're bad. You know, they know, but they don't have either the willpower or the board support to say, we're out of here. We want nothing to do with this monopolistic cartel. But they are out there, and you can find them, especially when you're willing to have a board that says, we're going to support you. We're going to work together, and we're going to do what's best for kids. It's not about figuring out ways to siphon money out of the classrooms. Right. I do want to get and talk about your financial view, but this is happening all across Texas, where these trustees that are placed by these executive search firms, and you see it. Their main criteria is, how big of a bond did you pass? How much debt did you saddle Texans with?
Mandy,
let's talk about that.
Well, back to those, since we had attended TASB training, there aren't training sessions that are doing the things we're doing, that we're about.
Right.
So, there is a cartel. They want things to keep going. And I would just say, if TASB is so effective and good at what they do, then why do we have the state of public schools where it is now?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Exactly.
Academically, it's not meeting the numbers.
It's terrible.
And financially, it's not. If they'd gotten, as Cam said, if those good trustees, and there are a lot of good ones out there, if they'd gotten good training to help them with tough issues like financial and academic, we would have much better schools. So I think the case of getting rid or having alternatives is very clear.
Yeah.
Do you like the current state of Texas public schools? I go around the state, and I can tell you it's really easy. The answer is no, we don't.
Right.
And what do we do about it?
Yeah.
That's exactly, I mean, that is 100% correct. That's actually what the parent empowerment movement was founded upon, is recognizing, I send my children to a public charter school. We were pushing for education freedom accounts. We're pushing for districts to follow leaders like yourself to say, we can do this, because you have got to have transparency and quality for people to trust it. And you all are, the bar is so high in your district, but it's attainable for everybody. We don't need to have 50% of our kids that cannot read on grade level, 60% that can't do math, and 70% that can't pass a basic civics and social studies exam. That is appalling. Your numbers, your kids' achievement, your kids are the ones that are going on and launching into new jobs. They're launching into great higher education institutes. They will be the leaders of Texas, and by extension, the free world. Every district should be striving to do that, but they can't do it if they follow the training of the TASB-led cartel, because all they're concerned about is money. How much money can we whine and cry and lobby with their taxpayer-funded lobbyists up in the district to say, we need more money, we need to do this, to pass bonds and to go, well, those kids just can't do it. I'm watching it play out right now in Austin ISD. Which is a disaster. And it's been a disaster since the reign of failure of Gina Hinojosa, when she was the president, declined bringing in successful educators and school leaders because it wasn't going to be politically expedient, is all I can think. I don't know. I mean, her dad was the chairman of the Democratic Party, and I'm sure that the visions of higher office were there from the beginning. And we look at it now, and people say, oh, well, it's just 3 schools that are failing. No. There's 23 schools that are failing right now because they have not done what you all have done, focused on academic and being responsible fiduciaries of taxpayer dollars. So anyone that can flee Austin ISD, they're getting out. Meanwhile, everybody's trying to flood into your district, and there's a reason.
Yeah, and let me give you a crazy stat. So out of 1,200 school districts in the state of Texas, Carroll ISD ranks what out of 1,200 in funding per student from the state?
Oh,
1,200.
Okay, I was going to say, really low.
So
yes.
our funding per student is about 8,300.
Okay.
Guess what this new voucher program is? 10,000.
Right.
So why in the world do we only get 8,300 if the state decided that 10,000 was the magic number? Now, let me compare that with Fort Worth. Guess what Fort Worth gets per student?
In the 20,000s.
17 plus thousand. Okay. So you cannot tell us that it costs $9,000 more per student to educate a kid in Fort Worth than it does at Carroll ISD. That's why the funding formula has to be scrapped. It has to be totally redone. And reading scores.
Let's talk about, hold on. Wait, we'll get to reading scores. Yes, I want to talk about that. You just hit something that I didn't even know we'd talk about today, but I'm excited you said it. The funding formula, absolute debacle. Because I was bringing up, Austin ISD, I think, spent $26,000 per student last year. I mean,
sounds about right.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And so we look at, what it is. It doesn't take massive amounts of money when you hire good teachers, when you have good curriculum, when you have disciplinary expectations.
That's the point.
That's the point. But the funding formula boondoggle, which was done in, it was updated. I mean, it's been going on back since the recapture nonsense was passed, but it was redone in 2019. It is a complete disaster. You've got 20 different weights, and they're always percentages, and it makes it completely opaque.
And nothing's performance-based.
Nothing is performance-based. It's all just how many members of the intersectionality wheel of grievances that they can shove more money to, regardless of if what they're doing works. And I 100% agree with you. The funding formula needs to be completely scrapped. It needs to be transparent. It needs to be based on what works. People should be coming to you all and saying, how are you doing your budget?
How are you doing it?
And let's look across the state.
100%.
Right. And we're a recapture district as well. I mean, we send back $25 million every single year. And Andrew and I have asked everybody from the lieutenant governor to the TEA commissioner to the comptroller to the state auditor, where's our $25 million going? Because we have a fiduciary responsibility to the public to tell our taxpayers exactly where every dime that they're giving us
to the cartel.
Is going. And we're not getting any answers.
We're hoping there could be an audit of that.
So we're going to call for an audit.
Good.
And if a certain comptroller gets elected, I think he will do it for us. And that way you have to know where the money's going or where it is before you can really make a change to recapture.
And not just our district, but there are 200 districts that are a part of that Robin Hood recapture.
Right.
And those taxpayers deserve to know where that money's going.
It's intentionally designed so that Texans cannot see where the money flows because you're getting over 50% of the money that are flowing into this education cartel and the profiteers. How much money can they get out of our pockets and put it in theirs? And this happens. I'm with you 100%. I do hope that a great comptroller comes in that wants to doge all of this. That's right. Doge it, baby, doge it. Because you can see that this is absolutely a corrupt system. It was passed in 2019, and while you can't blame because the way the legislative process works, they're there for 6 months, and you're trying to look at the experts. The chairman of House Pub Ed was a gentleman named Dan Huberty, and he worked with a man named Leo Lopez, who was the executive financial officer at the TEA. He's considered the brains behind the financial formula. So that passes. They have cups that have yay, more funding for kids and blah, all this stuff, acting like that this was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Well, of course, a few years later, both of those gentlemen, the chairman, Huberty, he left, went and bought in with a financial firm called Moat Casey with a gentleman named Christopher Huckabee, who owns the largest architecture school building firm in the state, and a whole host of others. And guess who they went and brought over? Well, none other than the architect of the funding formula, Leo Lopez, who now the majority of districts in Texas have to go and ask firms like Moat Casey How do we do this funding formula? Can you please run our numbers? Can you please do our audits? It is by definition the arsonist fireman. Go and start the fires. You can't do it. But we'll save you. We got the hoses. And it is absolutely corrupt. I'm glad you touched on that because the funding formula is a racket and it needs to be done. I will be there pushing with you to say we need transparency.
And, we talk about Carroll being at the top of the food chain in terms of education. We're doing all of this while the board has reduced the tax rate for the last 6 years. For the last 2 years, we reduced it below the no new revenue rate. And we're defeasing our bond debt. We inherited $500 million worth of bond debt when we got on the board. We've cut that by, $260
Saved
million.
About $80 million.
We are going to be the only 6A school district in the state of Texas debt-free in 2031.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, you guys should be leading the financial training in my opinion. Your board should be running the training. In fact, this is what needs to happen. No more TASB, no more Moat Casey, no more of these people running these conferences at, Kalahari or JW Marriott so they can indoctrinate them. You guys should be putting up the videos and let it count for training. This is what
Mandy,
needs to happen.
As Cam said, because we have such low funding, and a lot of people think, oh, well, it's South Lake, your wealthy community, high property values. Well, as we said, that money, we don't get to keep it. It goes away. But we had no choice but to be financially prudent. We just didn't have more money. And we weren't, because of the funding formula, we weren't going to get more money. And so we've had to do what I think schools should be doing anyway. And when people say, oh, well, you're comparing it to Fort Worth, as Cam said, so $17,000 per student, and we're here down at $8,300. The reading scores, the number of students, percent of students, the last one I saw of Fort Worth ISD was 35% of their students read at grade level. Carroll, with the least amount of funding per student, is at about 92, 93%.
Amazing.
Right? So it's not about money. It's not about money. It's about how that's spent. And we were recently, our football team.
Hold on 1 second. Because you're right there. It's your neighbors. 35% of Fort Worth ISD is reading on grade level. That is criminal in my opinion. You are setting
it's not acceptable.
Children up to fail for the rest of their life. Right next door in Carroll ISD, you're in the 90 percentile.
And actually in Tarrant County, it's not even close.
Amazing.
The next school district is about 77%. Right. So
Amazing.
when we go around and we tell the story, people are like, I want a refund. That's because the reading scores, the math scores, that's the product that we should all be focused on. We shouldn't be focused on building buildings or anything like that. It should be about the reading scores. That's the product.
That's right.
So are Texans getting a good value? No, they're not. And that's why so many people are frustrated and angry and they don't know where to go. And so we just like to say, look, what are you doing with your money, right? And when I hear school districts that are just passing giant bonds, and I'm like, what is the priority for your community? Is it more important for you to have the state-of-the-art best indoor practice facility or to have great reading scores? We can help them, but we can't make that decision for that value decision for the community. They have to vote for people who feel that, and that's really what we have today. Is we have districts that are run poorly financially and the academic scores aren't there. And I believe they could be good people, but they're getting bad training on how to fix things.
Right. And let me make one more point on bonds. So our philosophy, you see all these districts passing billions of dollars worth of bonds, encumbering their communities out 30, 40, 50 years. Our philosophy is just the opposite. We know that we have to have money to preserve infrastructure, and we don't have that as part of the regular M&O budget. So you're going to have to go borrow money. We are going to go out on the market and borrow $30 million baby bond and pay it off in 3 years. So we don't encumber our community out 30, 40 years. We're going to have residents in South Lake that are paying off bond debt that they didn't even vote for.
Correct.
That's not fair. So we're going to go out every 3 years and say, give us $30 million. And oh, by the way, this is what we're doing. We're fixing the roof at Old Union Elementary, replacing the HVAC at this school, and we'll have it transparent so they see. Exactly where their bond debt is going.
And they don't fight you on it because they get it.
You can't fight on that. That's just common sense.
That's right. Instead of a huge bond
responsibility
to build a new stadium, which somebody actually running in a recent election who lost for school board.
Yes.
That was their idea.
That was their whole thing. Yeah.
Cam and I said to our superintendent, let's paint it.
Yeah.
so we power washed and we painted our stadium, and it looked great.
That's it. I'm going to guarantee you that school board member was being funded by someone from the Cartel, that architecture, engineering, construction, who I talk about Royal ISD, where they have about 20% of their high schoolers that can read. And they just passed it's less than 3,000 kids in the ISD. And they just passed a bond for $72 million. For a football stadium, for nothing else. Your all's philosophy needs to be the philosophy of every district in Texas. I'm thrilled that you were here to share this. I mean it when I say that you guys need to be involved. I know you've got families and you've got real jobs and you're running an incredible district, but we need you here at the legislative battles to fight, to help, to say there's a better way. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You guys have escaped from the TASB cartel. You are doing it the right way. You are focused on a high quality education, and your community is going to benefit for decades and generations to come because of it. Before we wrap up, okay, I'm going to start with you, Andrew. I want you to look into the camera. I want you to talk to the legislators to make sure that they know they do not have to listen to the TASB cartel lobbyists. And I want you to talk to the trustees of Texas and tell them that there's a better way, that they can raise the bar, they can improve the outcomes, and they can improve the lives of the next generation of the kids in their area.
Well, when you're elected, whether you're an administrator or you're an elected official for your local school district, you have an incredible responsibility. And I think in Texas, unfortunately, too many of us have been given the priority list, which is just doesn't benefit our children. The next generation of Texans deserve strong, courageous leadership. We need people to step up and do the right thing. The real scoreboard is not the beautiful one in the stadium. The real scoreboard is the reading and math scores of our kids. And there is a way to do it. I'm grateful and honored that I've been involved for 5 years with my colleague, especially Cam here, our president, to basically say, this is the way, and let's just have a plan and work our plan. If you're a district where you have a low reading score, you know what? We give you grace, but what's your plan to make it better? If you're a district that has huge bond debt and you can't raise your taxes anymore, what's the plan to get it better? Have a plan and work your plan. And that is what we need to support. And we have to shake ourselves from all of these special interest groups who really don't want things to change, because they make money off of those bonds. They make money off of, sadly, underperforming school districts. And we owe it to Texans and the next generation to do better.
Thank you, Andrew.
Well put,
Cam,
Andrew.
I want to turn to you, and I want you to talk about you and Andrew and your group in Carroll really took the bull by the horns and said, we've had enough being controlled by the TASB monopoly. We've had enough of the education cartel dictating the performance and the outcomes of our students. Talk to the legislators about the importance of breaking the monopoly, ending the cartel, and truly giving power back to the locals to ensure that every student gets a high quality education.
Yeah, well, why have independent school districts if the state is going to mandate everything that a school district has to do? I mean, we Andrew and I and our board and our district now really believes in the term independent. We are, an independent school district. The community is the ones that should be deciding on the education of their children. And to every school board member out there, you have real power to make a difference in your community and in your schools. Carroll ISD is a prime example of being able to hit on fiscal responsibility, community values, and strong academics. So we just encourage every school board member out there to do what we did, stand up, take a step forward and make a real difference in your community.
Amen.
Cam, Andrew, thank you for leading the way for all Texans to see that a high quality, high performing, excellent school district is doable. Our kids are smart enough. Their future and the future of the Republic depends on it. Thank you for your service to your community and all that you're doing. Thank you for joining us today on Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. And now you have the power.